Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be showcasing my Jurassic Park collection. It includes all of the stuff from Kenner going back to I think 1993, and then The Lost World, Jurassic Park 3. Nothing from the first Jurassic World because I think we can all agree that the quality of those toys was a bit lacking compared to the previous stuff. And I also have a lot of the new Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom toys, which are made by Mattel now, and they're definitely a big step up from what we had a few years ago, so that's always a plus. I guess I'll start with the Kenner stuff, since that's where it all started, and I think we can agree, at least most collectors can agree, that the Kenner stuff was the best, even though Mattel's done a pretty good job, and Hasbro, they had a few hit and misses, but overall I think Kenner is still the champion, I guess you could say. So let's start off with the big classic red T-Rex from Jurassic Park, made by Kenner. I think we can agree as kids that this was the one that most of us wanted the most, even though it's probably the most expensive. I actually just got this one recently, probably within the last 5 or 6 years. I found it on eBay and a lot of other Jurassic Park stuff. I was actually lucky enough to get it for a pretty good price. I think I paid under $100, and I got the T-Rex. I think I had the Carnotaurus with it, which that one sells for pretty high. It's one of the more rare Lost World figures, and I think it also included the Bull T-Rex over there. So those figures on their own nowadays sell for about $100 a piece. So the fact I was able to find them all together for around $100, at least I think that's what I paid at the time, it's a pretty good deal. You're not going to find too many deals like that nowadays. So while we're on the subject of T-Rexes, let's jump on over here to this one. This is the one, as a kid, I think I wanted this one the most, and I never did get it, but eventually I did. Like I said, I just got this one a few years ago. I did get it for a really good price, but unfortunately it's damaged a little bit. The tip of the tail's cut off, and there's some writing on the bottom, but the electronics still work, and so, and, it doesn't really look that bad, even with the part of the missing tail. You don't really notice it that much. The next one I want to show off to you guys is this young T-Rex here. It wasn't the original one, but it was a repaint that I think it came out as an exclusive for either like Target, or it might have been one of the Universal Studios exclusive figures. This one's in pretty rough shape. You can see the bottom of it. It's kind of splitting apart. I had to try to glue it. But as far as all the young T-Rex repaints that are out there, I think this one looks pretty good. I probably prefer it the most. I like the camo skin texture. It didn't come with the wound cover, unfortunately, but it still looks pretty cool even in its poor condition. I still like this one quite a bit. Alright, so the next T-Rex I have, this was actually from Jurassic Park 3. It was the big T-Rex that they made for the line. I was never a fan of its original paint job. I just think it looked kind of fake and cartoonish, I guess you could say. Wasn't very realistic. So one day when I was on YouTube, I was looking around and I saw some of these videos about repainting dinosaur figures. I think the channel is Ted Brothers or something similar like that. And I had the idea that I wanted to try it myself, and for a first try it actually looks pretty good. It sort of resembles the other camo young T-Rex back there. And I did my best to add a lot of detail. If you get really close you can see that it didn't turn out half bad. And I actually featured this one in one of my videos that just came out recently, so if you haven't seen that, I'd encourage you to check it out. Alright, so next up are the Velociraptors. I actually have a ton of these ones. I just bought a lot of the Fallen Kingdom ones recently, such as this one right here. I really like the design on it. It resembles the first movie. And then, I don't know, just overall, I really like this one. I like the stance. It's pretty neutral stance. as opposed to like these ones, which the stance for these figures is a little awkward. Even though I really like the paint job on this one, I think it's probably my favorite paint job, or one of my favorites out of all the Raptors. I'm really a fan of this one too. I love the paint job on that one. So I have just quite a few variations here over the years. This is of course the original one. I think we all used to have one of these at some point. And then you have the Lost World one, which is over here. Well, they made a few Lost World ones. They made one of these, but a different color. They also made one of these for Lost World, but I think the skin texture was a little darker and the eye was yellow. And then they also had this one. I think it's called the Snap Jaw or something, because when you pull its leg, it has that action feature. It's pretty cool. I'm not a huge fan of the action features, but when they don't really interfere with the overall look of the figure, I don't really mind them so much. But yeah, then you had, after Lost World, you had Jurassic Park 3, which included figures like this one. It's got sound effects, snapping jaw, and then they came out with a variation. Well, the original one was like, it resembled the movie. It was more red and I think gray. But then they came out with a bunch of repaints. They also have this one over here, the green one, which I kind of like that one. I think I still prefer the tan and bluish one over here. And then of course they had the Jurassic World, which again, I didn't purchase any of those because I thought they were pretty bad. And then you have Fallen Kingdom, which actually so far, for only like just releasing their figures, they have a lot of different variations. They have this one here. It comes in a few different colors. I also have this grayish one. Yeah, articulation, the pose is a little weird because the only way it can stand is like in this running pose. But its arms move, and its arms are like rubbery more than plastic. You can see you can bend them. And of course it has the opening jaw, which it opens a decent amount. Not quite as much as this one. Let's see if I can do it with one hand. Yeah, you can see the jaw on that one opens a lot wider. It looks more menacing. Then last but not least, we have the Utah Raptor from the original line, Wave 2, I think, of the Kenner Jurassic Park line. This one, as you can see, it's massive compared to most of the Velociraptor figures. It also has real feel skin, which is similar to like your T-Rex and a lot of the other Kenner figures, so I really like that about it. It also has action feature. I can't remember how exactly it works. I think, let's see if I can figure it out. Yeah, I can't remember. I think it's legs kick or something like that. But an interesting fact about the Utah Raptor is, for those of you that don't know, the Velociraptors in Jurassic Park were actually more based on the scientific Utah Raptors, because real life Velociraptors were actually like the size of chickens, and that's not very menacing. So they actually modeled the Velociraptors in the films more after the Utah Raptor, even though they don't ever state that in the films. They just, I guess, prefer the name Velociraptor because it sounds a little more impressive, I guess. So I think I've exhausted all of the Velociraptors, except I do have one or two more to show you. I also have this one. It's from Jurassic Park 3. It's actually a variation from the ones that I already showed you. They had this one, which came with like a multi-pack that had Grant on a motorcycle, even though that never happened in the film. So moving on, I'm going to show a couple figures from The Lost World that don't really fit into a category. So first up here is the Allosaurus figure. This came with like a little mini playset. It was a little like laboratory type of thing, and you could have it lying on the laboratory table and have like someone operating on it. And an interesting thing about this figure, a lot of the dinosaurs have battle damage, but it's typically just like one little piece that pops off. But with this one, it actually has multiple pieces. You can take off the skin, then you can take off the bones. You can see all the way down its organs and its muscles and all that stuff. Also, you can do it on the legs, or just the one leg rather, and also on the tail. It's a little bit tight on there. So yeah, there's actually 3 different locations for battle damage. And, I mean, it's pretty cool. It's a unique figure. It's the only one that really has that, except for the one of the recent T-Rexes coming out for Fallen Kingdom. They're actually releasing a figure very similar to this, but for the Tyrannosaurus Rex. You can like operate on it basically. The articulation in this one, I do like the pose. I do, like I said, I prefer the sort of neutral poses. It doesn't stand all that well because its legs are kind of loose, but its jaw does open, not a whole lot. I mean, that's kind of pathetic. It barely opens at all. I don't know how it's supposed to eat anything by opening its jaw that little, but it's cool. I do really like the design on this one overall, and the color. It's a basic color scheme, but you know, sometimes I don't really prefer the super bright colors on the dinosaurs. I kind of just prefer them neutral because that's how they looked in the movies, and that's kind of how I imagine them to look in real life. Next up is the Carnotaurus. This is also from The Lost World. This is one of the more rare figures in The Lost World. A mint and box one can sell for a couple $100s, and a loose one can sell for anywhere from like $60 to $100. I think I got this one in a lot with some other figures, so I was able to get it for pretty cheap. And luckily enough, it came with the little skin patch, which most of them that are loose don't include that because it's a small little piece and it gets lost really easily. But yeah, I was lucky enough to find that. I do like this figure. It has a little action feature. By pulling its right leg, it opens its mouth kind of disproportionately so. For a while when I first got this figure, I thought its jaw was broken because it was like stuck like this. For some reason I couldn't figure out how to close it. I kept trying to force it shut and it was locked, but then eventually over time I was just messing around with it and it went back to the way it was supposed to be. So yeah, it's interesting. And then it does have sort of rubbery skin. It's not fully plastic. The head is plastic, but the overall like torso, the neck is pretty hard, but the torso, it's actually sort of rubbery, which is cool. I always like that on the figures. The only thing I don't really like about this one is the hands aren't very accurate. I'll show you later the other Carnotaurus figure I have. Their arms are actually like smaller than T-Rex arms, and they kind of like fold back like this, where this one has like Velociraptor claws. So I don't really understand why they made it like that, but this is a really cool figure. It's kind of hard to stand it up. Like that's the best you can do. It kind of looks weird because you imagine it more to be like this in real life, but that's the best you're gonna get with this one. It did come with capture gear, but since I bought it used, it didn't have that included with it, but it's not a big deal because I don't really care about the capture gear anyways.